welcome to the 8th episode of our Heart Heroes podcast. I am Cathy and I am joined today by the lovely Helen. Helen, thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you for having me.
No problem. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about you and your family?
My name's Helen. I'm married to my husband Ian and I have 3 children. Ari, who's 6, Leo, who's 3, and Baby Rhea, who's 11 months.
And I am sure you are busy.
Yes. Very, very busy household.
So we're going to start to talk a little bit. We're going to focus, I suppose, on Rhea.
Yeah.
Because Rhea has thrown a curveball, hasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhea was, well, we said we were going to wait after having 2 children. We said we're going to wait a wee while to have a third, got rid of all of our baby stuff, and then we're pregnant. So thankfully a lot of our friends and family gave us lots of baby things, but the pregnancy, aside from a bit of drama at the start, was fairly typical. We got to sort of later on and they were a bit concerned about our growth, but I've always had, some babies on the smaller side, so we went for our growth scans. Everything was fine. I was booked in for an elective section and the day came finally and we had our little Rhea Sunshine, which is what we call her. Oh. And she was born at a really good weight, 6'1", big chubby cheek. She was perfect and I was just over the moon in a little bubble, looking at this little girl after 2 boys that I created. And I just remember feeling so blissfully happy and just very, very lucky. But we got home and then everything was normal. I was just adjusting to life as a mother of 3 and I had very specific plans of how I wanted my maternity leave to look. I was going to have lots of lying on the bed with her, soaking her in, doing all the walks, and I had an idea of how I wanted it to go. But after the first couple of weeks, we sort of noticed that Rhea wasn't gaining weight as you would expect. She was tired very easily and she would fall asleep when she was feeding, and I remember posting in Facebook groups asking, is this normal, should she be falling asleep when she's feeding? And to be honest, we just thought we had a very chilled out baby. We were saying how lucky we were that she was so chilled out and wanted to nap, but then we started to get a bit concerned, and we'd been in and out of hospital for checks on her jaundice, and the health visitor was coming out very regularly, and it got to the stage where we went to a 8-week check. The doctors, and I said, she is sleeping a lot. Yeah. Is this normal? And they said, baby sleep, she seems okay. But then the health visitor was concerned enough that she referred us to the hospital to see a dietitian. And we went to see the dietitian, and a paediatrician was there as well. And straight away the paediatrician knew something was wrong.
Okay. And then at that stage, what was going through your head?
So they did some tests and came back and said to us that it was fairly certain she had a heart condition, that the consultant in the Royal had said, yes, there's an issue with her heart, but we don't know what. And I was left overnight in hospital because we weren't being transferred by ambulance till the next morning. I was left in the hospital on my own with her, and all I could think was, they're going to tell me that there's something wrong with my baby that they can't fix. Okay. And that was the only thought in my head. Yeah. And it wasn't, it was overnight. One night isn't a long time, but it is a long time when you're thinking about something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that fear is so real. And especially as you said there, you're just in this hospital, probably surrounded by babies, and you've got little Miss Rhea in front of you, and you're just absolutely petrified as to, well, what's going to come of these tests, and what's the next kind of few weeks, days gonna look like?
Yeah, because at that stage she looked like, looking back, she looked really unwell. She was very mottled and very skinny, and so I was just looking at her with new eyes, nearly thinking, she looks sick. And the guilt, how have I missed this? As a mummy, I put a lot of pressure on myself, but looking back, I didn't miss it. No. I was asking the right questions. I knew something was wrong, but it took a long time for me to get over that guilt, and for not forgive myself, but learn to trust myself again.
Yeah, I think that's an inbuilt thing with parenting, isn't it? You automatically put this mum guilt or dad guilt, on your own shoulders. But as you rightly said, you absolutely done everything as you should. You advocated for her and you totally fought her corner and you got the help that you needed. So hopefully you're not just feeling that way as much now, because a lot has happened since then. So once you got in that ambulance and you got transferred then to the Royal, what did the next few days look like?
They were up the hour. So I remember speaking to her consultant and he told us, that she had a moderate to large VSD, which is what they saw at the time. It turns out she had an ASD as well. And he was explaining to me that it was very treatable and, that it could be fixed with open heart surgery. All I heard was open heart surgery, heart lung bypass machine.
Yeah.
And I was looking at this tiny baby in my arms thinking and I went to the appointment on my own because Ian had to look after our boys and I was just out of it. I wasn't on this world. So we were brought up to Clark Clinic and that's where I saw you, Cathy. We were sitting in bed space 8, I remember it very vividly. And I didn't know what was going on. I was just traumatised, but the support and the warmth we received as soon as we went onto that ward, the nurses just scooping you up and you being there to explain the support that we would receive, it meant so much because there were people there who understood what we were going through. You know, there were already faces that would come to know really well over the next lot of months, but just having people there saying, look, this is hard, but we've got you, and these are the ways that we've got you, it really made such a difference. But I suppose in terms of the months that went on after the initial days, Rhea, we did get her home after I think a couple of weeks because she got her tube in for tube feeding and she seemed to be coping okay. But then we got home and she vomited a lot and she was choking on her vomit nearly. So we ended up having to be readmitted and then we got discharged again, but she wasn't putting on any weight, she was losing it. So we ended up, overall the call was made that she would be an inpatient until her surgery and she had to get to a certain weight for her surgery, so it was all based on weight.
Weight literally and figuratively. There was lots of
waiting. There was lots of waiting.
Waiting and weighing, wasn't there?
But in a way it was sort of nice to know where we stood, that we were in and we could wrap our heads around that.
Bit of a plan in
exactly
place. And you mentioned the time that we first met, and I said this to you before, I just remember the look of shock on your faces and that whole trying to understand, because I think you were literally just on the ward and even just trying to get used to your new surroundings. And I remember you had lots of questions, but one of them that stuck out at the time for me was this real concern as to how you and Ian would tell the boys and would explain to the boys about, what's going on with their little sister. And also, obviously, you're not going to be at home as much as they're used to. That there were lots of hard bits of what we went through, but that was the managing our family life was the thing that had the biggest impact on us. Like, my oldest son is autistic and his routine is very important and his world was flipped. Because we were either me or Ian would have been in the hospital from 8 in the morning to 8 at night every day, and I think the boys became a bit fixated on the idea of family and that they felt like we didn't have a family because we weren't all together. And we were just like ships in the night, swapping over. I would come home, he would go back to the hospital. We tried to create as much of a routine as possible and let them know who would be there. But it felt like it was never enough because the person who was there couldn't replace the person who wasn't, because we come as a unit. So one of the things that really helped us was the use of the family room. After a few weeks, when we realised that it was more of a long-term thing, we booked the family room and brought Play-Doh and, different puzzles and things, and we could spend time all together as a family. And that, I remember though, I was so drained by the time we got there that I was literally falling asleep in the chair. But it was like just us all being in the one room was so important. And I'll never take that for granted again, us all being in the same place. And I suppose, you do take that for granted, just in normal day-to-day life, you do. So I'm glad that you have that and have that for the entire unit.
Yeah.
Then came the next big upheaval. So tell us a bit about, we know Rhea had to go for surgery and that was taking place in Dublin. So what were the kind of emotions and the practicalities and all sorts, I'm sure, was going around your head? Tell us about kind of that surrounding time.
So firstly, I suppose we were building up. Like Rhea put on weight very, very slowly. And we were building up to an initial weight, which then got lowered. And then got lowered again, and then we had a meeting with her surgeon and thought it was just like a meet and greet thing.
Yeah.
And then he was
great.
No, I don't know. But he then was like, right, I'm booking her in for 2 weeks' time, and we were literally, what? 2 weeks' time? So we always had sort of plans in place for childcare for the boys, but then it was in full sort of how do we prepare them mode, and we had social stories and things letting them know what would happen, and they were in these stories, and we did as much prep as we could to let them know, we're going down, and because of the unpredictable nature of how long you're going to be there, we had to sort of just reassure them that we didn't know how long we would be there for, but we were coming back, and there was very much a focus on that Rhea will, we're very lucky that her heart could be fixed.
Yeah.
And her heart will be fixed, and then we will all be together. This was the message at the end of our story, is we will all be together. So a lot of prep into that, and then practical things like making sure we had enough of the boys' things in the house, for whoever was looking after them, endless amount of snacks. And then we sort of fell, and we knew obviously Rhea was going to be well taken care of. She was transferred down to the lovely ambulance that was amazing.
Oh, you got the children's ambulance.
Yeah, and she loved the lights and fell asleep the whole journey. So it all went as smoothly as it could, but I would say nothing prepares you for seeing your child after surgery. I went into that ICU being told what she would look like.
Yeah.
But when it's your child, you can't prepare yourself. Like, I just sobbed. And thinking back, like, it seems like a dream. It seems like it never even happened. But also at the same time, the thing that people tell you is how resilient these children are. And see, whenever she got her breathing tubes out and the drains out, and then she was back to herself, when the day before she had been in such a bad way, I couldn't believe it. I was in awe of her. Wouldn't even cover it.
Yeah, we tend to refer to the children we work with as heart warriors, and so many people then can relate to that after. They're like, warrior is the right word, because it's almost like she'll never remember, you'll never forget.
Never.
But she just has responded so well, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit about, you've gone through so much, and she has gone through so much, and your family has gone through so much to this point.
Yeah.
What does family life look like now?
So I suppose what I really want to say is, I listened to these podcasts whenever I was in hospital on the days that it felt like it would never end. I could not see an end. I could barely see the end of the day, sometimes, never mind the end of what was happening. But see now, I wake up and Rhea is 11 months old. She's still tube fed, and she does have some eating issues, but on the whole, she is the cheekiest, most active little girl. She's met and exceeded all of the milestones that I was so worried that she would miss.
Yeah.
I keep saying there was a day when we were allowed out to walk and I brought her down to see a leaf outside because I was so worried that she hadn't seen outside. Everything you're worried about, these children have got it. I remember driving home from that hospital sobbing because I had to leave her behind. Yeah. And now, if I get woken up in the night, I'm happy about it because she's beside me. Just if anyone's in the position where they're in hospital for a long-term period, there are better days, and I am grateful for every single one of those days I get at the minute. And I wish I could go back to my past self and give her a big hug and say, you're doing a good job, and it'll all be okay.
Helen, you are doing a good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You really, really are. And I'm so glad that you can see that looking back, because it has just been one hell of a journey. And as you, I think you touched on it beautifully. And you said you just, even though you think you're prepared, at actually what you walked in and see, there's so much feeling then, you know, connected to that. And I think as a parent, you're used to fixing it, aren't you? You know, something's wrong with your child, fix it, I'll take it on, you know, whereas in that position, you do feel very out of control. So I think you're right. Although you think you can prepare yourself as much as you can, there's some things, you know, you have to experience.
Yeah.
And it's good to take the time even to reflect on it and think, you know, that was really, really tough.
Yeah, I know. And like, it was tough for us all, but we got through it and we've come out the other side better for it. We learned some lessons that I think we needed to learn and understand now what is really important. And, you know, I'm just happy that I have my family and we're together.
And I think that's a lovely way to finish. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It has been a joy hearing about Miss Rhea.